All right. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome to Divine Masculine Mondays. I'm so thrilled to have a very, very special guest here, a coach that inspires me, a speaker, a human that inspires me. His name is Savio Clemente. How are you doing, Savio?
I'm doing well. Really good day. I had a workout early this morning, so I'm feeling good.
Ah, that's so good. And I'm so excited that you even said that because a lot of what I want to talk about today, we're talking about how to unlock courage. Right, that's our topic. I'm sure we'll talk about lots of things today. If you're just coming, I see you, fire starter. Welcome. Just let us know where you're joining from. And as we talk about unlocking courage, Savio, you mentioned just going to the gym, just working out. And I think, so much of what I see people deal with today is in their head, right? It's stuff that's made up. And one thing I noticed that you did today is you got in your body before you came here. And I'm traveling in Michigan right now. I've never been to Michigan, and I just jumped in Lake Superior this morning. I've
Mhm.
never swam in a freshwater lake with waves. It is
Wow.
incredible. And I knew I had to do that because I was in my head today too about like the interview and all that's um, every Monday I do this, and every Monday I get a little nervous. So I just wanted to honor you for getting in your body today. And is that part of your practice daily for your own self-care?
Yeah, so I try to work out at least 5 to 6 times a week. I do different modalities, so from HIIT to spinning. Today I did a bit of like Pilates slash yoga,
Mm,
and then strength training. Yeah,
mm,
I feel well. So during the pandemic, I didn't really do any of it.
mm.
I even purchased a bike. I didn't ride my bike. I felt like I wanted to get other things done. So now I leaned into the workouts like I used to pre-pandemic.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's so good. And I hear you moving your body in different ways too. You're not like, I just do this one thing. I mean, if you look at
Yeah.
Savio's website or Instagram, you see how so much of what you have is like energized stuff. Like I notice all this, it just looks like you have a lot of fun in your life and you get out there and you do things to get in your body and you do things to challenge yourself too.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like, well, life has given me a couple of major challenges.
Yeah.
Um, least of not is my cancer survival. I'm a cancer survivor. And so I feel like a long time ago, a friend once said to me, "We're not promised a bed of roses." And
Mm.
that really stuck with me because I think when you take that expectation out that things are supposed to go along swimmingly, then you sort of are prepared for the bumps and bruises.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. So true. And before we go any further, thanks to our followers. We just want to make sure that we actually didn't get you up live in our room on Instagram. So they're letting us know. So thank you for doing that. So Savio, before we go any further, I'm just going to send you a request here. Oh, you're there. Okay, great. All
I
right.
am.
Now I've got you
I
there.
am.
Okay, so for the
Great.
guys who couldn't, for the people who couldn't hear, I'm just going to introduce Savio with this beautiful bio about him, and we'll jump right in. We'll go a little further. So Savio, thanks for being flexible with us here.
Sure, no
Um,
worries.
so Savio helps cancer survivors overcome the confusion and gain the clarity needed to get busy and living in mind, body, and spirit. He inspires health and wellness seekers to find meaning in the why and to cultivate resilience in their mindset. He's a board certified coach, podcaster, syndicated columnist. He's got a really cool weekly newsletter he puts out. He's a stage 3 cancer survivor and founder of the Human Resolve. So Savio, welcome.
Thanks, Ben. I really appreciate the opportunity. And that's a long mouthful of information, but thank you. I
But
appreciate
it's,
you mentioning.
yeah, well, it's important. I think for people to know where you're coming from. We have a lot of really beautiful men here today. I see all you guys, Mark, Jeffrey, Mike, Stafford coming on. If you're joining, let us know where you're coming from. And if there's one thing that you're in fear of today, one thing that you're afraid of, just to write it in the comments. For me, it was like being the knowledgeable enough host to hold space for this brilliant coach I was going to be interviewing today. Having the Wi-Fi connection and feeling like things were all going to work out right in a new place. Savio, are there any things that you were in fear of today that you overcame since just showing up?
Yeah, this is my first Instagram live feed. I tend to be really comfortable in behind the scenes type of work, but I'm pushing myself. So definitely that.
And celebrating you for that. Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You're a good support system, so I appreciate it.
Beautiful. And so that alone, so you did that and you showed up. And to me, if the definition of courage is not someone without fear, but someone who looks fear in the eye and takes action anyway, that's something you did today. And
absolutely.
If you're listening, I would love for you to share, just comment below one thing that you did today, maybe to overcome a fear. It could be really simple, right? Like I actually got out of bed despite my fear of what might happen when I wake up, or anything really simple. And you can type that below. So Savio, you've really overcome a lot inside of fear and taking action anyway. And as a cancer survivor, and like what had you become a coach? I guess that's one thing I want to ask you.
I'm sorry, say again.
What had you become a coach? What led you to coaching?
Yeah, so I knew I needed to transition into something more fulfilling. So my background's IT, very good at it, something that comes very natural to me. But I knew there was something more, but I promised myself that if I hit the 5-year remission mark, which I did, thankfully, that I was going to find a way to help other people through the journey, other people. I didn't really quite understand if that was going to be a coach. I know it was going to be a therapist because it's just not something that I'm sort of, focused on. And I really like that transformation process. I really like sort of this idea of, people often get confused with coach and therapist. A coach is someone who's present-minded, who's going to take you hopefully somewhere that you need to go or someplace that you desire to go. And I really like sort of that assisting process of not being the expert on the person, but sort of hand-holding in a way, towards their goals, aspirations, dreams, that sort of thing. So I think it was just sort of being comfortable in the fact that I'm here, I'm alive, and I'm willing to do the work to, move not only myself forward, but other people forward. Because whenever I coach, I learned so much more about the human experience than I would ever glean from just my own, limited, living life.
That's beautiful. And you said so much there, you want to be of assistance, I heard, and not just to sit and listen to people, but to actually be present with them and have them take action in their life and move things. That's what I love. So many people come to me and they say, well, you cost more than my therapist. I don't understand how this is going to work. And I said, well, how long have you been working with your therapist on this? Oh, 10 years, something. Well, we're here to have you transform your life right now, right? And that there's actually practice involved, and that you're not an expert in the other person, right? That as coaches, we get to be facilitators and to support systems, right?
Yeah. And there's also a misconception that I find is that most people think like someone doesn't want to change. It's not, that's really not what the research is. The research is people don't know how to change. There are these sort of stages of change that people need to have well-equipped, verified, bona fide individuals who know what they're doing to take that person on that change process. And that's where the misconception comes in. It like you often see people and they're like, I'm too lazy. It's not that, they just don't have the tool. They don't have the resources in order to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you said that. Yeah, because we can get stopped in the why too, right? Trying to figure out the why. And to be as simple as maybe you don't have the tools, right? Even your mindset that's telling you like, I can't do this. It's just because maybe you haven't been given the tools to do it yet, right? Our minds are so powerful yet so limited sometimes. And that's why I'm such a big fan of getting out of our heads and into our bodies, because I really believe if you can start to take an action, move a muscle, then you can change your thoughts. And
Absolutely.
I would love to hear a little bit about how you were able to change your mindset during the cancer process. During, I mean, not that you're just healed and it goes away and your life is perfect now, but right, like, can you walk us a little bit through of the mindset that you deal with, that you dealt with personally, inside of receiving that diagnosis, anything that was telling you no, or this is bad, and then how you kind of moved through that into the resilience? So where did you find the courage?
Mm. So I was diagnosed in 2014. I pre-cancer, I worked out 5, 6 days a week. I ate organic foods. I saw a naturopath. I took vitamins. I'm a long time meditator, so I've been meditating for I don't know, over 20 years. And it hit me. It was lymphoma. It was in my stomach. After scans, after a sonogram scan, they told me I need to go to the hospital. I asked them why, and they wouldn't let me leave. And everything was like fast forward. They asked a family member to come pick me up. And I'm like, that's weird. I have my car here. Um, Long story short, I was admitted the same day. I was told a day and a half later that I had lymphoma. And I was bedridden for a week and then hospital for another week. They had to distend about 7 liters of fluid from my abdomen because that's where the cancer was. And I just remember they had to do a bone marrow aspiration on me. And I remember the doctors just saying to me, like, we've done these bone marrow aspirations on people, and people are literally writhing in pain. They're screaming at us, they're cursing at us, and you just kind of handling it kind of fine. And you, even when we told you you have lymphoma, you pretty much handled it. And I looked at the deadpan and I said, well, what am I supposed to do? Break down? Like, that's just not my personality. I'm just someone who, if something bad happens, I'm going to process it mentally first because I live in my head a lot. And I'm going to see where, the rest sort of unfolds. And I just remember having a conversation with a really good friend on the phone. And, the doctor said to me, I need to do my first round of chemo. And prior to cancer, I was someone who just really didn't even take aspirin. I didn't really do much like that. I pretty much sort of lived a very holistic sort of lifestyle. And I remember my friend saying, "You sure you want the poisons to be in your, like, that's literally poison. They're like going to poison your body." And I sat quietly in quiet contemplation after that conversation. And I just listened to my inner voice. And my inner voice said to me, there's two paths to the truth. They're the left and the right. And right now, you don't know where to go. So I listened deeply and I said to myself, I think the answer is the two extremes. And so I spoke to the medical director, and I remember she looked at me and she said to me, I don't care what the F, she literally said, I don't care what the F you do, but you're really, really sick. You have stage 3 cancer. You need to start chemo. I really strongly advise you to do that. And I did. I got my first round like 3 days before I left. And I did 6 rounds of chemo. And then in between that, I did integrative medicine, different modalities. I researched the hell out of this cancer. And fortunately for me, I was able to beat it in 4 months. I got my remission status. I remember 5 days before Christmas. It was the best Christmas present I could ever have or hope for.
Yeah.
And I just promised myself, as long as I do my part, the rest is really not up to me. So that's kind of my story in that sense. Where the courage and resilience come from, I think it's part personality, part the fact that I've been a long time spiritual seeker. So I've lived in the spiritual essence. Like, I know we are more than our bodies. And when I was going through the cancer, I said to myself, there's two Savios. There's the Savio that's in this bed right now, literally almost going to die because I had stage 3. They said to me it was really bad. And the other Savio is much more than that, bigger, brighter, whatever your system is, some spirit, essence, soul that's much bigger than this. And so I had to parse the two. And so I made a conscious decision to parse the two.
So you went through the two extremes of both the natural healing and the medical. I mean, not that that's not naturally there, but you went for both extremes. You put the chemo in your body, and you also went at it from an entirely naturopath perspective and energy perspective. And sounds like your personality is a very go-getter, forward, get out there, right, and do something about it. And so when you deal with people, whether they have cancer or not, if someone comes to you and says, listen, I don't have that kind of personality. That's not me. I feel pretty stuck in this thing. Like, I don't really see a way out. How do I get there? Right? Um, what are the ways you might walk someone through that? Or yeah.
I can give you a classic example. I had a client who basically is at this moment going through cancer. He's beat it, come back. It took his arms, it took his legs,
Mm.
and he said to me, "It's trying to take the rest of me." And I remember saying to him, "What if cancer wasn't there in your life anymore? What would you do?" He couldn't even answer the question. So I always fast forward and I always make them create that vision for themselves. It may or may not come to fruition, but if they can feel and sense and maybe embody that vision, then they can create actionable change. People often think that change happens because you like need that intrinsic internal motivation. Sometimes change happens when you just actually do something, when you're actually just like in the moment of doing it. And then you're like, oh, wait, I just did that. I think I can create more of that. And so that's just one example. I mean, then another example is really like trying to fish out or ferret out why why is it that you want what you want? Why is it that like what is it going to tangibly give you? And sort of figure out that and sort of have them sort of sit in that for a moment. It's an uncomfortable space because most people don't challenge you like that. And as a coach, it's kind of I feel like it's my duty to make sure that that the person's able to examine those internal drives.
Yes, yes. I want to reflect a couple of things that you said. I'm really excited because this is things I talk about every day. And I was just talking about manifestation work yesterday, that
Mm.
if we have to be specific for what we ask for. And clients, I had a client the other day, same thing. It was similar. It's not similar at all, actually. But the connection I'm making is that because he doesn't have cancer and he's not losing his arms right now, but what he was up against was similar thing in his mind. Like, I I don't know how to get over there. And I said, well, have you actually spent time meditating? And he meditates daily. Have you meditated on what it would be like to have that over there, where this doesn't cloud your life anymore? What would it be like to have that right now? And can you meditate on what that would feel like in your body as well? And you can use that practice with anything, with healing, with any kind of energy, with money, even relationships, right? If you can't see a way out inside of adversity, that there's actually an opportunity to, your body's so brilliant and amazing, and your molecular structure can really work for you, and the energy of the universe can work for you. So if you ask specifically and you can start to mirror that, and you create mirror neurons, your body almost doesn't know, from what I've understood in science, doesn't know the difference, and can literally start to create those healing pathways in a new way, because you're giving your brain a space to imagine for a moment, to open up a new door, a new pathway for something else to come in. But it takes an action, it takes a different action, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, actually, so this weekend I saw the movie Shang-Chi, and not to spoil it or anything,
Haven't
but there
seen
was
it
a
yet.
scene
Yeah.
in there where, well, I'm not spoiling it, but I'm just telling you, there's a scene in there where one of the person, I'm gonna not probably say it properly, but basically the premise of it was if you don't have a focus on the target, you'll never hit anything in your life. And so it really was so simple. I don't know if a lot of people caught it, but I use my active listening coaching skills. So I caught it immediately and I was like, oh, so beautiful. It's such a beautiful sort of statement on, most people think like manifestation and energy work and sort of like the secret is all about like thinking and feeling and sensing. It's also about, like you said, mirroring. Like, are you actually embodying those things? Like, if you want that relationship in your life that's loving and tender and careful, are you loving, tender, and careful with other people? Do you do that? So how's the universe going to sort of, you know, reciprocate in kind if you yourself are not embodying that?
Yes, yes. And are you loving and caring with other people, but are you loving and caring with yourself?
Absolutely.
Right? Are you treating yourself
100%.
that way? Um,
100%.
Jeffrey asked here on Instagram if we both meditate daily. Do you meditate daily?
I do. I've been doing it for like over 20 years. It started at 5 minutes. Now it's about 20 minutes. I do it my own way. I'm not in lotus position. My background's Indian. I don't do any of those things. I pretty much just lay down instrumental music, put some incense on, and that's it. I'm gone. I'm somewhere else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yourself?
Beautiful. And you've probably trained your body to do that over time, right? So now it knows exactly, you've
Right.
set yourself up, you said the music, the incense. So sensorily, it already, and it's laying down. So it already is prepared. You've prepared yourself physically, spatially to be set up for meditation. And it's almost like Pavlov's dog, right? Like you ring the bell and it's like, oh, time to meditate. And your body can just go
Yeah.
now, right?
And if I don't, for some reason, like I'm traveling or literally like I feel like crap. I do. I really, really do. I feel really bad. And yourself, Ben, do you have a
I
meditation practice?
really, yeah, I would say I have a strong meditation practice. It's not perfect daily. And that's what I'm finding. I've been traveling more this year than I have probably in 20 years combined. So we've moved almost every 2 weeks. Not necessarily on purpose, but that's kind of been the flow right now and of our lives, and we're enjoying the freedom. Like we took time to go be with actually her grandfather who's dying of cancer right now, and so being inside of this conversation is really powerful. I've never met my wife's grandfather, and she hasn't seen him in 20 years, and he's had cancer for a long time, and he just said, I don't want to put any more foreign stuff in my body. I'm 87 years old. I really have lived a good life, and right now I just want to be with my family and allow my body to allow it to take its course. And I think that takes courage as well.
Absolutely.
And so showing up, trying to meditate everywhere when I wake up different places and my body's going through different things. Like some days I'm driving and some days I'm surfing and some days I'm just resting. I do like you said, my meditation doesn't always look like sitting. I do like to sit in a lotus position. I like to sit in nature if possible, in the sand or with trees or outside, big time. For me, it's just the great outdoors is my God. And just sitting with nature and with my breath. And sometimes I do a guided meditation. I do some theta healing, which is a practice working through different planes of energy and connecting with higher powers and source, and just doing healing for yourself and others. And then sometimes I do some visualization work, some manifestation work, because I realize I teach this a lot and practicing what I teach, right? So it looks a lot of different ways for me, but most of the time it's sitting with myself. And if a partner can join, if that works for us. Sometimes we used to try to meditate together every day, and that actually wasn't serving us. We realized we needed different things. One person's distracting the other, and there was judgments, and it was just a great opportunity in my relationship to see that even it's just how important an individual practice is, because you can't even integrate a partner if you need different things. And why try to force that on someone else? Most of my clients who are new to meditation, or say, and most people I talk to say, oh, I'm terrible at meditating, I sucked at meditating, I couldn't do that, so I don't do that anymore. So one thing I wanted to point out was, well, it is a practice, right? Our brains have incredible neuroplasticity and can be trained, right? And consider that maybe you're just in a practice of something else. You have thousands of hours practicing getting up and going in the morning. So consider that if you practice meditating daily, that over, after 20 years, you might be pretty good at it. You might be able to just throw on the music and the incense and your body knows what to do. Sounds like you've practiced training your body for a long time to go into that state. So if you're new to it, I just want to tell anyone listening, it's okay if your brain is thinking. That's what it does. If it's wandering during that time, if you don't have a specific intention, but just some mindfulness, taking a moment to pause and listen to yourself, to your breath, to your body, no matter what happens after that, is, I believe, very healing.
100%. I mean, I often tell people, they're like, why do you meditate? I'm like, I'm really communing with self. I'm getting to touch self. And I think that scares a lot of people sometimes because it's like silence and self. But, it's the only way. You know, we came here alone, we take ourselves alone
Yeah.
on the next journey, whatever that journey is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the silence, being with ourselves, has been, a lot of people have experienced that for the first time. And I think through the pandemic, that was one thing I dare say is a gift that we received, many people received in the pandemic, the gift of self, the gift of being with our own thoughts for long periods of time, dealing with our own fears and with other people's, right, inside of these forms of isolation, whether you were isolated or not. Some people loved the pandemic. Some people really lost significant others. Some people did not make it through, right? But either way, we at all some point had to stop. Things shifted, things changed, and deal with something new in our world together. And I think inside of that, there's a lot of mental health professionals and coaches have been warned that there's this huge wave of depression, anxiety, suicide coming, of post-traumatic stress, of all these things. And yet,
Mhm.
I would say maybe there is, and it's just the first time because we're really getting to sit with ourselves, where the world stopped and said, no, you can't go outside right now. And even if you did,
Mhm.
we had a moment of pause and an opportunity to feel our feelings. And I know even for myself, that was scary. I felt a lot of new things I hadn't felt before. I felt I had a lot of new challenges coming at me, and I'm sure anyone listening here might have as well. So just want to remind you, our listeners, to be compassionate and be patient with yourself. And if you haven't been meditating for 20 years, or as Stafford says here, if it's hard for you to shut your brain down, just to have compassion for that, right? And just be where you are and know that it is a practice. And that's why there are people who are trained facilitators like Savio and I here that can guide you through these processes as well.
Yeah.
Savio, I
Yeah.
would go ahead.
No, I just want to just make, one point there. So I follow Simon Sinek, he's the author of the book, The Why. And I remember it was a few months ago, and he said he spoke to a military friend of his, and he's like, "Do you know we've all been through trauma?" And he said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I've been through like war trauma, but we've all been through collectively a trauma." And I'm like, and it's really funny because I know from coaching, from what you know from coaching, the body stores trauma. So whether it's happening now, happening next week, happening a month or 6 years or 7, 10 years from now, your body's you're gonna have to find ways to release that. I just find meditation's easier way, even though it might be, just start off with like a minute or 2 minutes of just
Yeah.
quiet, like taking stock of what's going on within self.
Yeah.
That's it. Doesn't have to be this elaborate, thing.
Yeah, yeah. I really say like 3 minutes or less. Just put on a timer and just sit there. Just sit with yourself for 3 minutes as an experiment to start, and that can be enough for the day. Like, whoa, that was like intense, or my brain was, I don't even know where I was, or I was obsessing about work all day. Okay, great, but at least you practice today, and tomorrow there's a groove that's been opened that you can revisit. And I feel like every time you practice it, it's sort of like a record. You're putting the needle back in that place, and over time that groove gets nice and worn, and you can come back to that routine with ease. And I think we've worn a lot of other grooves, and it could take time to sort of lift that needle up and off and get into a new action, right? But that's why it's a practice. And often I try, I'll work with people one-off if they really, really want, if that's all the resource allows them. But really, to build new habits, it takes time. And I really try to work with people for no less than 3 months, just so we can say, hey, this is going to take practice. I want you to give yourself space to practice imperfectly, and just to practice, right? No matter what that looks like. And we've talked a lot about meditation here. I know you do a lot of different things for your body, and there's a really, and I believe our body has so much consciousness and brilliance. You sort of talked about it, and the body knows it stores trauma, right? Even if the brain isn't aware, it may come out later. And you talk a little bit about three brains. I would love for you to talk about the three brains, maybe explain that concept to people who don't understand, and how you harness those three brains.
Sure. So it's a simple way of just really talking about the head, heart, and gut. the three brains, I call them, because there's scientific studies that and energetic studies that prove that there's some consciousness there. There is a level of knowing, a level of intelligence. And so for me, I always, depending upon whether or not when you tell people to go into their body, they're usually confused because they're like, what do you mean what my heart's saying? Yeah, your heart might be giving you just an image or a feeling or a sensation. And it just sort of works. Typically, the way it sort of works is you sort of connect with the heart first, because the heart sort of has this resonance. There's different, studies on the fact that, like Heart Math Institute sort of does a lot of these sort of integrations where you go first into the heart, then to the head, resource the head, go back into the heart again, go into the gut. Gut's the area of courage, and then go back to the heart and repeat that process over again. So whenever there's like a quandary or something I'm sort of confused about, I sort of use that method. I even told my niece, she's a junior in college, and she's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I'm telling you, if you ever get confused, just sit quietly, listen to something you really like, and see if anything comes up or bubbles up within you. And I just try to make it really basic for people, because if you go into like, because like the whole thing with embodiment, it's really about like what the person's sensing and feeling. I'm not directing that. I'm actually just sort of observing that, and finding ways to sort of nourish that, or finding ways to sort of create more space for that. And so I just really tell people, it's as simple as just like tuning out the world and tuning into the inner world.
I love that. Tuning out the world and tuning into the inner world. And there is a lot of intuition in there. And one thing I love to tell clients and anyone listening is that you have everything you need inside of you. You already have it there. And often it can be getting the kinds of maybe you need the tools to help bring it out, or just a coach in your corner to remind you that you have it. And maybe it's just a matter of turning inward a little bit more. I give my clients inside and outside homework. And take it or leave it. I was like, this is for you. This is what I see based on our conversation. Like this week, your outside work may be to go move your body, right? I have a client who's really struggling with just immense pain, chronic pain in many places, and already in his 40s, his body's breaking down in ways that he really can't do most forms of exercise. But he found out he has horrible knees, like walking is painful, but he got on a bicycle for the first time and something shifted. And he said he felt like this like little boy in him light up. And I said, where did you feel that? And he was like touching his chest. He was touching his heart. And so I said, your outside homework this week is to go ride your bike again. And he's like, whoa, I have to do this. Well, all right, okay, ride it once. Just ride it once. And if you want to ride it longer or again, go for it. But just do that thing once. And then the inside homework was for him to meditate on himself on that bike now, or feeling that freedom everywhere in his life or everywhere in his body right now. And it's like, well, how do I do that? How? Well, just practice, just try it. And even if you can't, imagine what it might feel like. And in a week, even if you did that for 2 minutes a day, you might really notice, like, let's see what shifts, right? Let's not like outthink ourselves, outthink our bodies here. Let's give our bodies the intuition and the chance to teach us.
100%. I totally agree. And I love the fact that you gave him sort of physical homework, which is, go ride your bike. And then you sort of made him think a little, maybe when he's riding it, maybe there's something emotional coming up or something, something, a little more resonant.
Yeah.
So I really love that. That's really
Well, he's struggling in his personal relationships as well. And yeah, so I asked, where did you feel most free on that bike? Right. So what is that like if you could bring that freedom into your relationships? Right? Like what's missing in those spaces that your head's telling you I can't, right? And sometimes it's just showing up, like putting your body physically there. our bodies are so much more powerful than we ever realize. And I didn't think I could even make it here to the Great Lakes last night. I was so tired. My body was telling me just rest, just rest, just rest. But I would roll down the window and smell the air, and it would give me like another half hour of driving. I would do things
That's
to let my
awesome.
body teach me to go, to trust. I would tell my body, okay, you're gonna rest in an hour and 20 minutes. Like, you can get through this. Because even I was a personal trainer for a long time too, and so many of my clients would say, I can't. But if they just did it, or said, just say I can, just say yes while you're lifting it, chances are you're way stronger than right? Our bodies, what ultra marathoners go through, and the things like your body has lived through stage 3 cancer and healed itself. When someone told you you're so sick, you need these chemicals right now to fight this, and still within 4 months. I mean, did you intuitively think your body could do that?
I knew my body could handle a lot. Like, I'm someone who used to like joke around and say like I'm totally okay. My pain threshold is really high. Like, I would get like rolfing massages done, like deep bone, and it would never really hurt. I was like, okay, so I knew my body could like maybe physically take like the punctures and the wounds and all that. But I do think the integrative modalities that I did help stave off. Like, I lost my hair, I lost all those things, but like stave off like I had no vomiting. I was still working out. Like, literally my eyebrows were falling out. I'm still at the gym and people are like looking at me like strangely. Um, but yeah, I think, I'm very realistic about things. As much as I'm like so into like spirituality and all that, I'm also someone who's like a realist. And so I said, I'm going to give it my best shot here, do my best, and hope for the best. But I honestly, Ben, I didn't leave any stone unturned. I even read the Quran. Like, there's a passage in the Quran. I literally did. Like, I treated this as like an assignment, and I would like focus like a laser beam on it. I did nothing else. Like, every day was all about like getting myself well again. Like, I didn't let anything else enter my mind frame. I did. I didn't. Yeah, that's all. I lived and breathed the healing process.
Yeah, yeah, man. Well, that's awesome. And again, I had this intuition I'm thinking about some men I've met recently. And when we're feeling like we're lacking that motivation, and I sort of touched on this earlier, what would you say, what would you give a client, what would you say to do when it's like, well, well, actually, you touched on already. I mean, you said, well, meditate on what it would be like now, right? But if people are depressed, and they are, right? And I'll really try to make this specific question for you. So if you have a client who's depressed by this situation, by having cancer, or let's, for other people who are listening, if you don't have cancer, just a situation in your body, or in a relationship in your life that just feels like, there's no way out, right? And you've got this like awesome type A personality. So for clients, what do you say to people who are just like, I can't even see that, right? I can't imagine what it would be like. I don't see the way
So,
out of it.
so for me, it's like it's going to be a very simple answer, but it's usually a very powerful one. I often just ask them, "What is it that you need? What is it that you want?"
Mm,
Because the two are totally different.
mm,
Like, I was chatting with with a group of people, and one of the friends were mentioning how he just met someone and is really into the person and all that, and he's like, yeah, but I can see them, they went to go visit their ex, and I stopped him and I said, listen, I'm not dispensing advice here, because this is not what this format is for, but what do you need from her?
mm.
Like, what do you actually need from her? Because you're trying to be very diplomatic and objective, but what do you need?
Yeah,
And you need to see if that sort of relates to what she needs. Maybe she needs something different. And so, like, to just answer your question, I think once you establish the need and the want, And it's easy to then do all these other things, right? Create lists and have visions. But if you
Yeah.
don't identify that
Yeah.
and actually distinguish the difference, then it's hard.
Yeah. Wow. That really resonated with me. I think that's a really great question to ask ourselves each day. It just took me back to an argument that my wife and I had one morning when we were trying to meditate together, and it wasn't working. We were getting like frustrated and anxious, and
Mm,
anger was coming into the space, and
yeah.
um I realized she'd said, okay, I want to meditate together, and but I could see that it wasn't working, and I could see that I was very attached to us meditating together. But I said, honey, what do you actually
Mm,
need? And she was like, wow, I need not to be around you right now. I need to go meditate by myself. I need space. Wow. And um now we have this thing where in the morning we'll check in with each other, say, hey, what do you need, or what do you want today? And sometimes it's, I don't know yet, um,
mm,
which to me lets me know, I don't need to seek my needs in my other partner, which is a reflex for me. Is I grew up very much, that's how I learned to survive, right? Like, oh, checking in, making sure everyone else is okay.
mm,
It's a great reminder for me, and why I love my relationship is a mirror. Oh, Ben, what do you need? Maybe you need some alone time. Have you actually asked yourself, what do you need today? You may want to go meditate with your partner, but is that actually what you need?
mm,
And that was a gift I gave myself this morning. I was wanting to take a walk. We woke up in Lake Superior. We have this incredible view. There's like oceans from a natural lake crashing. We're at the beach. Her whole family's upstairs, who we haven't really spent any time with in 2 years, including a new baby and a father. And I said, oh, she was like, I want to walk on the beach. I was like, me too, me too. And then I saw that like our meeting was going to start in 30 minutes. Like, this was not going to happen. This is not going to happen today. And I said, Ben, what do you need? I need to get in the effing water right now. And so I just took off my clothes. I put on my bathing suit. I ran through the house, and they were having a deep family conversation. I'm going in. And it brought up so much freedom, and it ended up creating a lot of joy in the house this morning, because they saw me going in, and suddenly my father-in-law remembered him as a kid, like getting in the water, and he's like, hey, maybe I could come do this with you later
oh,
today, and maybe we should all take a walk out here. And God, water is amazing. And it started this whole conversation about healing. And he works in the largest maximum security women's prison in the state of Washington. My
oh,
father-in-law, he doesn't get a lot of spaces to be around healing and ask himself, what does he want
mm,
and need? And most of the time it's just rest and isolation, right? So me taking care of my own needs, long story short, ended up creating this whole beautiful conversation in my family, um, that they're probably still having right now while we're in this. I was like, oh, I want to go be with you guys, but I've got to work today. And I just kept trusting that my
mm,
appointment with Savio, this meeting, that this Divine Masculine Mondays, which can often feel like an interruption in my Mondays sometimes, or in my week, I'm gonna start live in front of all these people, and who's gonna watch
mm,
this? And oh, what a heavy, it's gonna be an intense way to start Monday. I start remembering, I've my body has taught my brain not to listen to that, and just to show
mm,
up. And every week I'm here, and I remember, oh, this is a gift. I know that when I get there, this is a gift. Whatever's on the other side of this fear, this anxiousness, this trepidation, is a gift. And just being inside of this conversation today, and you asking the why. I mean, listen, I've been talking for 5 minutes. You just said, what do you need? What? I'm like, yes. So anyone listening today, I just say this, I check in with yourself. Like, what do you need and want? And then if you need, or you're realizing, I don't want to be alone, or maybe I need some support, right? I've been trying to do this alone. Maybe I just need to open up my field a little bit. That, here is a coach, a speaker, a human who has walked through this, Savio, and that Savio and myself are people that you can come to. And even if we're not the coach, or you're not looking for a coach, that you can say like, hey, I need help and I'm not sure what I need, that we would be happy. I'm sure you would. I could speak for myself, to be that person to receive that question. Savio, do you work with any clients one-on-one right now?
I do. I work with several clients. My main niche is really cancer survivors, but I often get the I often get the thing, well, if you work with cancer survivors, you could probably work with me. Probably true. I'm really just looking for individuals that are sort of willing to go on a journey. I have 3 months, 6 month, one-on-one coaching programs. And usually for me, it's the same thing. Usually the sweet spot is around the 3 month mark. It's once a week. But I often find that one-on-one experience is usually the container is very tight, and sort of the person then gets to open up, and there's a whole, as being a coach, there's a whole energy sort of continuation, or something that's created it's actually very, very special. So I tend to enjoy those like a lot.
Yeah. Well, I know if I had cancer, you'd be the guy I'd call right now. And either way, just one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on as a guest is you really intellectually, I think, raise up a lot of great questions, and you have such a thirst for knowledge and stimulate a lot of great things in my mind, and also in my body and my heart. You having been through this, I just think it's beautiful that you've become a coach. I'm really moved by it. I feel emotional now just talking about it, watching you overcome to help people, and just to say, hey, you can show up. It doesn't have to be this way, right? And you don't have to do it alone. So I heard you took on a lot of this alone, and you had a lot of resilience and a lot of go-getter attitude and a lot of energy, right? That some people may not have. And I know chemo can really take it out of us, to really zap energy, and dealing with any chronic illness, whether it's physical or mental, can really take our energy. It's just really beautiful, the resilience you've shown up with. And what would you say to someone who's feeling like they're trying to take it on all by themselves?
I would say try to resource social support, individuals that you feel comfortable, or individuals that you feel could maybe assist you or help you. Maybe say to them, even if you don't feel comfortable, say, listen, I don't really feel comfortable, but I don't want to feel alone. So that's number one. I would say especially with cancer, it's such a physical thing that I think it's important to think of it from an energetic standpoint. There's also the spiritual, there's also the soul, there's also the emotional body. There's all these different, chakras, as you will. And so I think it's important to check in with those and see how those are firing, if they're firing.
Yeah.
I think that's very important as well. And then you might not have the same personality I do in terms of looking at this like a challenge, like climbing Mount Everest. But I think it's important, very important, that the individual itself sees hope, because, quoting one of my favorite movies, Shawshank Redemption, hope is hope. I think it was hope, having hope is never a bad thing, or something to that effect. Like hope is always something that's sort of available to us. So I think that's important.
That's so beautiful. Well, thank you so much. And for anyone who wants to find you, there's thehumanresolve.com. This is a website. There's some really incredible stuff. He's laid it out so clearly, his who and what and why, and how to get in touch with him. And I would love for you to talk about your newsletter real quick, your weekly newsletter. That sounded cool. I was like, oh, I want to sign up for that.
Yeah. So my weekly newsletters, I basically talk about the head, heart, and gut. And I
Those
have
three
a prompt
brains.
every week. It comes out. Yep. Comes out every Monday. And literally I go and speak to what's happening in my own body. Because I think people learn from, there's a theory in coaching called, social learning theory. And so people learn from other people. And so I think it's important that I myself am wrestling with some of those prompts myself. And I speak very candidly and openly, especially in the area of love, that, that those things are tough. And so I check in with those three areas. I also have a syndicated column Right, so basically it's on Authority Magazine and Thrive Global. And right now, my interview series is I Survived Cancer, and this is how I did it. So I have over 100 interviews coming out. I just had 22 just released, and I'm also speaking to oncologists and cancer experts on the 5 things that they need to do to overcome cancer.
That's incredible. Well, I'm
And
so
I
grateful.
have my podcast.
Yes, and your podcast. Yeah. Well, I just love that you're talking about what you're dealing with as well. I think it's so important. Like, none of us have the answer and are the experts, and yet we are so committed to you, people out there, to just make a difference and be a mirror for you. And I really see you out there in the world. And so I just want to acknowledge you for that, Savio, for who you are on the planet. And you mentioned the kind of showing up and forward facing more, and you really are forward facing out in the world. So I just want to acknowledge you for that and say thank you.
I just want to acknowledge you as well for first inviting me on this, and second of all, even reaching out randomly like you did on Instagram. I thought it was just so refreshing for someone to just speak from, like, I really felt it wasn't like a ploy to, it was like literally you really, something in what I do struck you. So I really, really sort of applaud that. And I know you and I spoke about some of the challenges you've been through. So I really love the fact that you are not only talking about this and working with men, but that you're actually living it. And I think that's the true testament.
Thank you so much. Well, here are 2 men living it, and we would love to support any of you men out there, or women, or cisgender, however you identify. If there is a human in need and you feel something here, you feel safe with either one of us, I'd really invite you to take an action on that. Especially inside of this world. One of the reasons I work with men specifically is creating safe spaces for us to be able to talk about our emotions and ask for help. And so I've really felt that here, and I just want to acknowledge you for that. And thank you so much, Savio. Please follow Savio on here. Check out the human resource. I mean, did I say that right? The Human Resolve. Sorry. That's why I didn't want to quote it. Check out the Human Resolve, thehumanresolve.com. And it's all in his Instagram bio as well. Savio, thank you so much. I hope you have a divine rest of your Monday, and look forward to being in communication soon.
All right. Thanks, Ben. I appreciate it. And I'm looking forward for you being a guest on my podcast soon. So
I'm really excited. Oh, and before we go, I just want to say, if you're still listening, if you're still watching, please share this with someone who you think it could resonate with. Tag a friend, tag a partner, and make a comment. That allows this positive message of healing to grow versus all the other negative content out there. And we really want to spread this message of love and healing and possibility. So please do that, and have a wonderful Monday. Thank you, Savio.
And like I tell everyone I speak with, get busy living.
Yes. Yeah, I was going to ask you, if there's one other thing you wanted to leave anyone with, anything else you wanted to say?
I'm taking it from my favorite movie once again. Get busy living and get busy dying. But for me, I just chose the get busy living part. So just get busy living. As hard as things are, it's like one action can create a whole series of positive things in your life.
Amen. Yes. Thank you, Savio.
Cool.
Well, have a beautiful day, everyone.